Nathan is Chief Executive of Autotrader, and he's our guest speaker for an AM Supplier Insight. Okay, so it's been a very busy November for you, Nathan, hasn't it? Just explain. You had your launch and then you had your results, both of which were really quite.
Yeah, well, that's right. I mean, twice a year we are pretty busy as we're a publicly listed company, FTSE 100, lots of public investors. So they want to hear about how we're doing. So we're right in the middle of those road shows at the moment. But then, like you said, on top of that, just last week we launched Co-Driver, which is one of the biggest and I think most innovative products that we've ever launched, and definitely on theme with AI. But AI is something that we've been doing for a very long time. This does feel different though, and important. So yeah, we're all hands to the pump as we head towards Christmas.
Yes. Now, you're not a newcomer to AI investment, are you? I believe that it's really the Co-Driver is the sum of 10 years of investment in AI.
Yeah, that's right. We've probably been doing AI now for over 10 years, actually. Retailers may or may not know that. There's lots of different types of artificial intelligence, but the one that's probably the most established is machine learning, which is where machines basically work out complex relationships between two variables. And we've been using that for a long time to help retailers in terms of pricing vehicles, in terms of working out what vehicles are desirable in their area, and also predicting things like how quickly those vehicles will sell. So if you're a retailer that says, I want to sell cars in 30 days, we can tell you which cars in your area will sell in that 30-day period. I think this is a bit of a move on from that, because we're not it's not necessarily machine learning. We're now using these large language-based models, which certainly got a lot of coverage over the past 12 to 18 months with the launch of ChatGPT and Google's models and Meta's models and Microsoft's models. So there's certainly been very high on the hype cycle, but I think it's fair to say we take time with these things, not to just jump on the bandwagon and very quickly launch a product, but to make sure two things. One, that the outputs are very accurate and useful to our retailers, and two, that we can use those models in a way that kind of leverages our unique strengths as Autotrader, which is really all about the depth of data that we have that none of those models ever see. So without putting Autotrader's data together with those models in our own private implementation, it's actually impossible to get that level of insight from those large language models if you just jump on, you know, ChatGPT and type in describe me this car or find me this car. That doesn't really use any real-time data at all, or any UK specific automotive data. And that's obviously you know, that's the 1 + 1 = 3 that we've created for retailers with this kind of category of products, that of which what we've launched is only the first 3 features of that product. And over time, Co-Driver, I think, will hopefully become a big co-driver for all our retailers' businesses. That's certainly the dream.
And you've got quite a significant resource behind it, haven't you? I believe that you have several hundred data engineers working on it all the time.
Massive, yeah. And that's really what we've been trying to do for many years. When you talk about the artificial intelligence that we've been doing, even when you talk about the software that we build for retailers portal, or our APIs, our AT Connect strategy, all of that is really about recognizing that for many of our customers, even our largest customers, actually having a huge technology resource, especially with all the cost pressures that they've got at the moment, isn't really that feasible for them. And even if they do actually currently have their own tech resource, the backlogs and roadmaps for those teams are absolutely enormous, because you've got all the internal systems, all the point of sale systems, finance systems. So what we're really trying to do with our strategy more broadly, and with Co-Driver specifically, is recognize, well, we are a technology company. We're one of the largest technology companies in the UK, but we're focused totally on automotive, whereas Google might not be completely obsessed with UK automotive. We can be both a big technology company and obsessed with UK automotive. So if you like, we want to be able to provide all those services, turn our 400 product and technology people and engineers into a resource that effectively is working for all of our customers. That's really what we're doing, to give them things that they wouldn't otherwise be able to do, even from an engineering perspective. But if you add to that, what we really do with these models is get all our consumer data and all the vehicle data, those two things which just aren't accessible to anyone else. We put those three things together with our capability to give them the very best tools that they could imagine, hopefully.
Yes. Okay. Talking about the tools specifically, you launched with the Smart Image Management module of CoDriver. Could you explain exactly how that will help with dealerships working?
Yeah. So there's two sides to all our CoDriver products. There's the benefit to the car buyers and the consumers that are looking at their vehicles, and there's the time saving and benefit to the retailers. So one of the big things that we see in terms of where people spend their time on Autotrader is looking at images of cars. These are like aesthetic purchases. We care about the colors, we care about the wheels, we care about how it looks inside, we care about the color of interior. So people will read descriptions and spend time looking at specification, but they spend an awful lot of time looking at images. But now on the platform, you have many retailers that will have upwards of 100 images. And what we find is when we look at the analytics behind the way consumers interact with our customers' adverts, we can see patterns in the way that they look at images. And if you order those images in a particular way, it will, one, make sense to the consumer, two, give them more confidence, and three, mean they spend a lot more time looking at that advertiser's car. And it is literally, many retailers will have rules or thoughts about what's the best order to put these things in. We kind of put that all to one side. We don't overlay our own opinions on those things. We just look at the data and say, well, what is it? What is the order? What are the images that people are looking at? What are the images that get the best engagement? And what we then do is we take all those images that a retailer uploads on bulk from their phones or from their digital cameras, and we automatically categorize, tag, reorder those in a way that we know will get the very best consumer engagement. And that task itself, even anyone that's uploaded a vehicle to any platform, it'll resonate the frustration that you can have with moving images around and things breaking and not quite working and images not appearing in the right order. Our machines will do all that for retailers, and more importantly, do it in a way that will get the very, very best engagement from consumers. It'll also point out, actually, if we see that there are images that we know will get good engagement from consumers that they haven't uploaded, so it can kind of flag that they need to add some images that they've not yet included. When you then step across to the consumer side, for those people that do use Autotrader, you'll be used to opening the gallery and you just flick through images. They might be in any order. There might be one of the right door and then the interior, and then the left door is kind of 10 images down. By automatically collating those, we then get much better consumer engagement with the image and build their confidence in the car by ensuring that those are all in a logical area. And if a consumer wants to, say, jump to the interior photos, or wants to see the wheels, or wants to see the boot or some other element of the car, they can very quickly navigate to those images without having to kind of pop around or flick through all of them. And at the end of the day, in the world of the internet, we know this, consumers are not known for their patience. So the easier you make these things, the longer they will hang around. The more frustrating they are, the harder they are, then they will flick off and go to the next vehicle, because there are 450,000 or so of them on Autotrader that they can choose from. So they don't need to persist with things that feel tedious, and we're trying to bring that improvement to all our retailers. So big time saving on their side. Doing all the tasks that CoDriver involves is about 30 minutes per car, but also making sure that they've got the very best chance of selling that vehicle by making sure that it's presented as well as possible based on the activity that we see on Autotrader. So yeah, images is the first piece, and it's out there now live in the wild.
Yeah. Okay, but it's not the end, is it? So next year, early next year, you add to CoDriver. Could you explain how the product suite will evolve?
Yeah, totally. So I think people should recognize that CoDriver is a bit of an overarching product category for us. So it will continue to evolve, we'll continue to add features to it, I think, for many, many years to come, with the sole goal of making the lives of retailers and car buyers easy. For this year, our immediate focus, as you said, we've launched the smart image capability. Next, we've got smart descriptions. Now, when you look at a car, typically the descriptions go a long, long way to helping the consumer understand what's unique about the vehicle, what's unique about the retailer that's selling it, and what specification that it has on it. Now, very often, because retailers have super, super busy lives, those descriptions can be really, really varying in quality. Some of them won't even talk about the car and they'll just talk about the retailer. Some will talk about the car, but they just blurt out all the spec in one go, and a consumer's none the wiser as to what's completely standard on the vehicle and what makes this vehicle stand out. So what we're doing is, again, a bit like the images, we're reaching into all of our data that we know about the car. So this is slightly different to images because we have a lot of unique data that only Autotrader has, that we get from all sorts of sources, including reaching into the factories and getting the build data from manufacturers. We pull that in, we combine that then with the consumer data on what we know sparks interest in this particular car, and we make sure we write a description that calls out those elements which distinguish this car from other vehicles and make it unique. And we do that in a way and a language that's very accessible to the whole population. I think that is transformative for Autotrader and transformative for our retailers, because we all know, you know, when you're writing that sensitive email or you're writing that piece of copy as you do, you know, every day, writing is not the it's not the easiest of tasks. It involves a lot of cognitive load. You're trying to get things right. You want to make sure that your readers can understand it and you're speaking a language that they understand. We're using all of our technology to give retailers, if you like, the first draft of that description that builds on all that data in real time that Autotrader has. And that's data that does change every day. I mean, we have 1.5 million, 1.6 million people come to our platform every day, and that's constantly evolving what we're seeing in terms of their interactions and their interests and what drives, you know, a better performance in a vehicle. And we basically cram that all in, hopefully to a beautiful piece of text that really does justice to the vehicle that retailers are doing. And then they can choose to change it, to adjust it, to add a little bit to it, or they can send it straight through to publish. But that's the co-driver element. We're not pretending we can do retailers' jobs for them, and we're not pretending that the computers know absolutely everything. But we know if a retailer just uses ChatGPT, that will only know a very limited amount about a car and on a very general basis, because it's looking at the written words on the internet, whereas we kind of supplement that with very, very specific data about that specific registration, that specific specification, that specific car.
Great. Okay, and I have been told how many minutes that's going to save a dealership per listing. How did you come to that particular figure? I believe dealerships take 28 minutes per listing, so you're going to basically reduce it down tremendously.
Yeah, that's exactly right. So I mean, as with all these things, some retailers will spend more time on it, some retailers will spend less time on it. But when we've been building Co-Driver, we don't, as I said, we don't pretend we are retailers. We really, really respect our retailers and the jobs that they do and the unique kind of knowledge that they bring to these things. At the end of the day, we're running an internet company, they're running a physical retailer. So when we build any product, but Co-Driver specifically, we work with a number of retailers. It tends to get bigger over time to make sure that we're hitting the mark, that we're getting the product right, that it's doing the job that they want it to do for them. And in this case, that it is genuinely saving them time, because if we just splurt out a description, they're still spending 28 minutes getting it right. And you know, there's no real value add there. So that time saving that we've looked at has been through looking at the time and motion studies, working with some of those retailers to see exactly how much time are they spending doing these tasks and how much quicker they can do them if they make use of this tool. So it will vary customer by customer, but you know, even if you've got a customer at the moment, cars are selling in about 30 days. Our average customer has about 40 cars. You can do the maths. This is like really significant. And what it lets them do is very quickly solve some of those issues and focus on the things that, to be frank, are really down to their intuition, knowledge, and experience, like buying cars, sourcing cars, serving customers, you know, dealing with issues sometimes with past customers, and all those areas that really do add a lot of value. And hopefully, you know, in all that, their businesses will end up more profitable, better performing, and that's really what we shoot for generally in our partnerships with customers, but very specifically with our co-driver products.
Okay, so I see the USPs as speed to actually produce a listing, but also the granular level of detail associated with that particular car. Is that all done on registration numbers?
Yes, yeah, we generally use the registration number, but we very often will reference across. If we're going into factory data, we'll reference across to the VIN and pull all that specification out. There is a third benefit that I would say that I've kind of mentioned a couple of times, and that is your advertisements will perform better for car buyers, because we're going to give them what they're looking for right there without you having to second guess that. So better dwell time for consumers. Better dwell time for consumers and better performance in terms of the ultimate advertisement. And that's really what we're looking to achieve. Okay,
so what sort of time scale do you expect for the whole suite, the 3 sort of modules of the co-driver suite?
Yeah, I didn't really cover the third one. So very briefly, the third one almost takes an abstraction of the description and calls out for the consumers the key selling points, or the really unique aspects, if you like, on that vehicle. So if someone's not going to go through the full description, then actually we're going to pull those out into a small number of bullet points that will help them better understand and very quickly get to the heart of what makes this vehicle unique.
Yes, okay. So where does this take Autotrader then? Most people will know you as a marketplace. Where are you going strategically with the development of AI tools?
Yeah, no, I mean, the development of AI will become a very big part of Autotrader's platform moving forward, both the retailer side and the consumer side. So if you think about our strategy is we run the marketplace. That's the bit of the business that retailers know very, very well. It's connecting buyers and sellers. It's making sure that we've got a very strong brand and making sure that we're providing the very best search functionality so that consumers can navigate their way to exactly the right retailer and exactly the right car. So we intend on continuing to do that. The next ring of our strategy, if you like, that sits outside of that is we call Autotrader as a platform, or it's often known as AT Connect. And that's really about taking all the work that we've done, all the data that we invest in, all the tools that we invest in, and opening that up and allowing retailers to use that in their own businesses, to optimize their own businesses, to run their websites, to run their points of sale system, to run their finance systems. We're building all those areas so that they don't have to do some of those jobs themselves. On the outside of that, you've then got digital retailing, which is helping retailers allowing car buyers really to do more of the car buying process that they would do with the retailer online. So still very much doing it with the retailer, but automating that, getting the information up front, allowing them to do that without necessarily a phone call back and forth with a retailer. Really, the way to think about AI, it wraps around all of that. So we'll increasingly be bringing artificial intelligence-based tools to the consumer platform. We've done that historically with things like price flags, valuations. They're all driven by artificial intelligence. But over time, we'll look at how we might improve search, how we improve the advert, how we help them navigate all the information that we provide to them. On the retailer side, it is really about embellishing all those tools, whether it's the marketplace, whether it's data, or whether it's digital retailing, with artificial intelligence to speed up the process of getting that car sold, basically. And like you said, we're starting with images, we're starting with descriptions, we're starting with key selling points that will stand out for consumers, but there's a long list of repetitive tasks that our retailers have to do that they can't always do to the same quality depending on what else they've got going on in their day. So we'll increasingly look at that, and that could be improving imagery, it could be embellishing descriptions more. There is even the capability to enable some level of interaction as though it was with the retailer, with the consumer, that takes advantage of the data that we already know about the car. So we see a really, really long list of things that we can do just in the core marketplace before you get to some of those more the newer areas like digital retailing and Autotrader as a platform.
Yes. Okay. So I see the benefits: data accuracy, using vast amounts of really, really high quality data, speed. But what about the transparency? We've actually, as an industry, there are a lot of question marks on transparent processes and interactions. How is Autotrader guaranteeing that?
Yeah, I mean, transparency, I'd say, really does sit. I mean, we would talk about trust and transparency as being one of the big things that we do. And it's not actually that we think that it's about retailers not being able to be trusted at all. We actually think it tends to be transparency that brings trust. And in the vast majority of cases, all our retailers are out there trying to do a good job, trying to sell good cars to consumers and provide a good service. And what we're always looking to do is make sure that we bring that to the fore, and we can give the consumer confidence by making it very easy to compare one car with another. That level of transparency tends to build trust with the retailer, because they don't feel as though they have to dig around for this, or that it's being obscured, or that it's hidden away in some description which they can't make, neither here nor there of. So that's really our strategy, is about bringing all these things, and sometimes it does cause some friction with our customers. Price flags is something that many people will talk about. Now, all we're doing with those price flags is making very transparent where this vehicle's price sits compared with all the other vehicles. We're not overlaying, when we say it's a good price, we're not saying Autotrader thinks it's a good price. We're just saying we look at the data, we compare the cars, we normalize them for spec and mileage, and then we let you know where this car kind of sits in the realm. And that can very quickly, for a customer, give them a high level of trust that they don't need to dig around and work out, is this retailer got a reputation for overpricing cars, or are they trying to rip me off? We can very quickly, through transparency, give them comfort that actually you're okay with this car. And even if it is a high price, that's not necessarily a bad thing. We all know in life, anyone that's got an iPhone has experienced the fact that, we do pay more for higher quality things. So a high price is not necessarily a bad thing. And that is certainly what we see in the consumer behavior. So whether it's dealer reviews, whether it's the information and transparency around the vehicle, whether it's about the history of that vehicle, because we offer vehicle checks alongside of that, we're all about making sure that we give as much of that to the consumer as we can up front, so those questions are answered, and then the retailer can focus on the important part, which is securing that sale.
Yeah, great.
Finance, I guess, is one area which kind of implied there, I assume, that there are a lot of questions at the moment around that. And I think part of that is not driven necessarily by misbehavior or anything like that on a retailer's behalf. It is just that it's a relatively opaque process, and until you go into a retailer, consumers can't necessarily get that level of comfort around what the finance will cost, whether it's a good deal, and whether they'd be eligible for it. That's another area, probably a whole other interview in itself, where we're looking to bring all that stuff forward. We're building integrations with banks. We've got Deal Builder, where customers can present that finance to consumers right there as they're looking at the car. So even in that area, I think transparency will go a long way to building trust. And that's another area that we're focused on from an engineering perspective. Okay,
Nathan, it's been very interesting chat today, and I'm sure AM's going to follow the success of Co-Driver with keen interest, as will the dealership community. I do wish you well, and invite you back for that second interview on the finance transparency.
Very good. Well, really nice to talk to you. I hope you have a great day.
Great. Thank you.